New York City lost more than 140,000 black residents in 3 years flat, and they did not vanish into thin air. They drove south and they took the moving trucks with them. The census numbers on this reversal are almost embarrassing for the North, so we pulled the data on the 10 southern cities quietly absorbing all these people, with real home prices and real paychecks attached to every single one. Atlanta's black population is now bigger than Chicago's by roughly 40%. Dallas-Fort Worth topped the entire country, adding more black residents than any metro in America. One Florida city gains around 700 new people every single week, brutal theme park traffic and all. And a Texas medical district just became the largest on the planet, hiring like the recession never happened. Hit subscribe. It is completely free, which is more than you can say for a single apartment in Brooklyn. Let me set the table before the countdown starts because the history underneath this is heavy. From roughly 1910 to 1970, about 6 million black Americans fled the rural South, on trains bound for Chicago, Detroit, New York, and Los Angeles, running from Jim Crow terror and chasing factory paychecks in the smokestacks of the North. Historians call that the Great Migration, and it rewired every northern city it touched. Then something strange happened. Almost the moment it ended, it started running in reverse. Brookings Institution demographer William Frey has spent decades tracking the U-turn along the interstates and rail lines heading south. And today, more than half of the entire black population of the United States lives in the South again, the highest share in about 50 years. Texas alone is now home to roughly 4 million black residents, more than any other state in the country. The moving truck data paints the same picture in bright orange. U-Haul's most recent growth index crowned Texas the #1 destination state in America, with Florida, North Carolina, and Tennessee stacked up right behind it. Meanwhile, the old northern strongholds are hemorrhaging people, with that New York exodus being just one loud example. The trains that once ran north are basically minivans running south now. So grab a sweet tea and settle in because we are driving straight into the heart of it. Number 10. Jacksonville, Florida. The biggest city by land area in the entire lower 48 is the sleeper pick on this list, a sprawling Sunbelt town of endless highways, the wide St. Johns River cutting through downtown, and container cranes stacking boxes at the port day and night. Jacksonville's metro is home to 341,206 black residents, about 21% of the population, a jump of more than 16% since 2010. Inside the actual city limits that share climbs closer to 30%. And you feel it everywhere, in the churches, the barbecue joints along the corridors, and the Edward Waters University campus, the oldest historically black college in the whole state of Florida. But the real magnet here is the money math. The typical Jacksonville home sits around $305,000, which lands about 22% below the national median, and the overall cost of living runs roughly 10% under the national average. Paychecks come from two large hospital networks, a growing finance sector, the naval bases along the water, and Jacksport moving cargo around the clock. Here's the detail that surprised me. When Jacksonville homebuyers go hunting for somewhere even cheaper, the #1 place they search is Savannah, Georgia, which tells you these movers are chasing the entire coastal South, not just one dot on a map. Now for the dark honesty, because this channel does not hand out brochures. Jacksonville's violent crime numbers run well above the national average. Per capita income sits noticeably below the national figure. And for a lot of newcomers, the paychecks simply have not caught up to the price of the house yet. It is a genuine bargain with an asterisk stapled to the front door, which drags us west to a Texas city that grew so fast it barely noticed it was happening. Number 9. San Antonio, Texas. The Alamo City is not the first place that pops into your head when you picture Black America, and that is exactly why the numbers here are so loud. San Antonio's metro grew its black population nearly 28% between 2010 and 2020, reaching 181,016 people, and that is explosive growth off a much smaller base than the giants further east. A big chunk of it is families getting priced out of Austin and Dallas, driving an hour south, looking at the Riverwalk and the old Spanish missions and thinking, we could actually afford a real life down here, and they can. The local realtor board pegs the median home near $306,000, while some citywide figures dip closer to $260,000, which makes San Antonio the most affordable major metro in the entire state of Texas by a comfortable stretch. The jobs lean on some heavy anchors, including insurance giant USAA, energy company Valero, the grocery empire HEB, a fast-growing medical district on the north side, and the enormous payroll of Joint Base San Antonio. The city added roughly 30,000 residents in a single recent year. And here's the wild little wrinkle. San Antonio has quietly turned into one of the largest cybersecurity hubs in the country outside of Washington, all because of that giant military footprint. So a city famous for a 200-year-old fort is now full of people defending digital ones. The caveats are real, though. Median household income sits in the high 50s, Bexar County property taxes run north of 2% of your home's value every single year, and the summer heat is the kind that will melt the steering wheel right off your dashboard. The Black community here is also younger and smaller, so the cultural infrastructure is still being built compared to what you find in the older southern capitals. Speaking of younger scenes exploding into something much bigger, roll the tape on Music City. Number 8. Nashville, Tennessee. Everybody knows Nashville for the neon boots, the bachelorette parties stumbling down Broadway, and the Grand Ole Opry. But underneath all that honky-tonk noise is a metro of 284,784 Black residents, up more than 17% since 2010. Inside the city, roughly a quarter of residents are Black, with deep roots in North Nashville and clustered around Fisk University and Tennessee State University, two historic HBCU anchors that have been shaping Black leadership for over a century. The pitch is simple and it is loud. Tennessee has no state income tax, so your paycheck stretches further the second you cross that state line. The catch is that Nashville housing is not the deal it used to be. The median home across the metro lands somewhere between $430,000 and $475,000 depending on whose data you trust, and inside Davidson County it has climbed toward $520,000. What keeps the trucks rolling in anyway is the job furnace. Healthcare titan HCA. Healthcare and Vanderbilt University Medical Center headline an economy so hot that Nashville has repeatedly ranked among the strongest job markets in the country, with unemployment sitting near 2.5%. And the surprising twist is that Nashville quietly became the healthcare management capital of America, meaning a huge slice of the hospital chains running the entire nation are secretly headquartered in this one Tennessee town full of guitars. Now the honest beat, because it stings. That growth came with a body count, and it landed hardest on the historically Black neighborhoods near downtown. As developers poured in, gentrification pushed longtime families out toward Antioch and Murfreesboro, while their old blocks got flipped into rows of skinny modern townhouses. The soul of Black Nashville is now having to fight for its own address in the city it helped build. From one fast-growing capital, let us slide over to a pair of them sharing a single stretch of highway. Number 7. Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. 2 cities, 1 metro, and an absurd number of PhDs packed into the middle. The Research Triangle combines Raleigh-Cary with 258,213 Black residents at about 18%, and Durham-Chapel Hill with 162,744 Black residents at a full 25%. Durham itself runs around 35% Black, and that number carries serious history because Durham was once home to a district so prosperous they called it Black Wall Street, anchored by North Carolina Mutual, the largest Black-owned business in America for much of the 20th century. Today, the draw is brainpower converted straight into paychecks. Research Triangle Park is a tech and pharmaceutical monster with IBM, Red Hat, and Cisco employing thousands across its wooded campuses. And Raleigh keeps climbing the rankings as one of the top cities in the country for tech professionals. North Carolina Central University, a historic HBCU right in Durham, keeps feeding graduates into that pipeline. On housing, Raleigh's median sits around $445,000, while Durham comes in more reasonable, near $371,000, so the two cities give you actual options depending on the size of your budget. The eye-popping fact is that Raleigh was recently the single fastest-growing major metro in the entire country for population, adding people faster than anywhere else on the map. And the downside writes itself. The triangle is spread out and getting expensive in a hurry. Home values across the region roughly doubled in 5 years, jumping from about $238,000 to over $400,000, badly outrunning local wages and the fresh wealth flowing into Durham, is putting real pressure on the exact historically black neighborhoods that gave the place its Black Wall Street name in the first place. History has a nasty habit of rhyming there. Now, right in the middle of this list, let us talk about the place that quietly rewrote the entire definition of black wealth in America. Number 6. The Washington, D.C. Metro, better known to everybody who lives there as the DMV. This one is not about cheap houses, so go ahead and throw that expectation out the car window. The D.C. Metro is the fourth largest black population center in the country, with over 1.5 million black residents, and it is the crown jewel of the black American middle and upper class. The real story lives out in the Maryland suburbs. Prince George's County is around 59% black, home to more than 500,000 black residents, with a median household income above $100,000. And for decades it stood as the most famous symbol of black affluence in the nation. All golf courses, gated communities, and enormous megachurches. And here is the fact that genuinely stops people cold. Out of every majority black, high-income census tract in the entire United States, well over half of them sit inside Prince George's County alone. But the plot twist is even better because the wealth did not stop moving. Neighboring Charles County flipped majority black, and the typical household there now pulls in about $104,000 a year, easily topping Prince George's and more than lapping the national median, which makes it the highest income majority black county in America. The little suburb of Waldorf tells the whole story by itself, going from about 15,000 people who were 82% white in 1990 to more than 80,000 people who were 64% black by 2020. This is black flight to the suburbs, then black flight even further out to the exurbs, wealth compounding across county lines like a rolling snowball. The honest note is that the district itself tells the exact opposite story. Washington was once nicknamed Chocolate City, but as incomes downtown soared, longtime black residents got displaced by wealthier newcomers, and the black share of the city has fallen off a cliff. The wealth out in the suburbs is very real, but so is the displacement that pushed it there. Now, before we hit the true heavy hitters at the top of this list, I need one small favor from you. If you are still here this deep into the video, you are exactly my kind of person, the type who reads the footnotes and double-checks the map before signing anything. So do me a quick favor and tap that subscribe button, because I make these deep dives every single week, and the algorithm treats unsubscribed viewers roughly the way I treat my gym membership, which is to say completely ignored while still technically paying for it. Alright, back to the trucks. Number 5. Orlando, Florida. Forget the mouse for 1 second, because Orlando is one of the fastest growing regions in the entire country, and black Americans are a massive part of that surge. The Orlando Metro added nearly 60,000 black residents between 2020 and 2025, which ranks it among the very top handful of destinations in the nation for black population growth. The region pulls in roughly 700 new residents every single week, which is basically a packed high school auditorium showing up at the county line every 7 days. Housing lands around $402,000 for a typical home, a touch above the national median, but a genuine steal next to Miami sitting down the coast. The economy is far more diverse than the theme parks let on, spanning tourism, a booming healthcare sector, aerospace work along the nearby Space Coast, and a quietly rising tech scene. Migration flows show families bailing out of pricey Miami and driving north to Orlando for cheaper homes and more square footage to breathe in. And here is the surprising part. A huge chunk of Orlando's recent explosion came from international arrivals, with immigration driving the bulk of one recent year's growth, while the region actually posted a small net domestic loss on the side. So the boom is loud, but it is more complicated than the billboards suggest. The dark honesty beat basically writes itself down here. A lot of Orlando's paychecks are chained to hospitality and theme park wages that do not stretch nearly far enough. Florida's home insurance costs have turned genuinely brutal, and home prices have gone flat to slightly falling, which is either your golden buying window or a flashing red warning light, depending entirely on your stomach for risk. Sunshine, sadly, does not show up on a pay stub. From the land of roller coasters and gift shops, we climb up to a skyline they nicknamed after Wall Street. Number 4. Charlotte, North Carolina. The Queen City is where the bankers went, and black professionals followed that money in a very big way. Charlotte's metro added more than 66,000 black residents between 2020 and 2025, and the region's black population has more than doubled since 1990. The city proper now runs around 35% black. This is banker country in the most literal sense because Charlotte is the second largest banking center in the entire United States, headquarters to Bank of America, and a massive hub for Wells Fargo, Truist, and Ally, propping up well over 100,000 financial services jobs in gleaming uptown towers. Locals and jealous rivals have started calling the skyline Y'all Street. On housing, the typical Charlotte home runs about $412,000. Expensive for the region, but a fraction of what that same salary buys you in New York or out in the Bay Area. Roughly 157 people move to the region every single day, and more than two-thirds of them are between 20 and 34 years old, right in the prime working and home buying window. The fun fact here is the airport, because Charlotte Douglas International handled well over 50 million passengers in a recent year, one of the busiest hubs on the planet, serving as American Airlines' second largest fortress, which means a shocking number of your delayed layovers have secretly happened in Black America's new banking capital. The caveat is affordability whiplash. Regional home values leapt from about $238,000 to over $400,000 in just 5 years. Rents jumped from around $1,100 a month to more than $1,600, and local wages simply refused to keep pace. So the newcomers arriving with big city equity are living large, while the folks who were already here feel the squeeze tightening every lease renewal. Now buckle up because the top three are the giants, and the first one genuinely shocked the demographers who track this stuff for a living. Number 3, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. Here's the plot twist I promised you way back at the top. When you picture the capital of Black America, your brain says Atlanta every time. But when the census counted actual black population growth from 2020 to 2025, the number one metro in the entire country was not Atlanta at all. It was Dallas-Fort Worth, which added a staggering 181,778 black residents in 5 years, more than any other place in America, shoving the metro's black population well past 1 million people. The engine behind it is corporate relocation on a scale that borders on ridiculous. Toyota, Charles Schwab, and Caterpillar all planted their headquarters here. Goldman Sachs is building its largest campus anywhere outside of Manhattan, and one count tallied 96 companies announcing headquarters moves to the region in a single year, up from just 18 the year before. Texas has no state income tax, so 8. Every one of those transplants keeps a bigger slice of the paycheck. The median home across the metro sits around $395,000. And the Dallas-Fort Worth area once again grabbed top honors as the number one U-Haul growth metro in the country, repeating its win from the year prior. And the real jaw-dropper is that they are literally building a stock exchange out here, the Texas Stock Exchange, cementing the exact Y'all Street nickname that Charlotte thought it had already trademarked. The honest downsides are property taxes running over 2% a year, a median income that wants to be higher than it is against home prices that really expect you to be earning 6 figures, and traffic and sprawl that will quietly test your marriage on the daily commute. Still, the trucks keep rolling in by the thousands, which leads us straight to the second biggest magnet on the entire list, a city carrying more black history than almost anywhere else in the country. Number 2, Houston, Texas. If Dallas is the shiny corporate machine, Houston is the cultural heavyweight champion, and the numbers back that up hard. Houston added 174,056 black residents from 2020 to 2025, second only to Dallas, and the metro is home to the largest black community west of the Mississippi River, period. The affordability is the headline that keeps pulling people in. The local Realtor Association puts the median home around $331,000, and housing costs run more than 20% below the national urban average, second cheapest among the biggest metros in America. That is a real house with a real yard for the price of a windowless studio in a coastal city. The jobs are enormous. Houston is the undisputed energy capital of the nation, with nearly 200,000 energy workers. And it is home to the Texas Medical Center, the single largest medical complex in the entire world, a city within a city that hires nonstop. Now for the culture, because this is where Houston flexes on everybody. The city is home to Texas Southern University, one of the largest HBCUs in the country, sitting in the historic 3rd Ward right next to Emancipation Park, a piece of land that formerly enslaved people pooled their own money to buy, and found back in 1872. Texas Southern also happens to be the only HBCU in America with an on-campus flight simulator for training pilots. Oh, and the Third Ward personally produced both Beyoncé and Megan Thee Stallion, so the cultural export game coming out of a few Houston blocks is frankly undefeated. But the dark honesty here is unavoidable. A Rice University study found that essentially no neighborhood in Houston or the surrounding county is genuinely affordable to a household earning the median black income. Houston famously has no zoning rules and some of the worst traffic and flash flooding in the country, and those energy jobs took a real hit in the most recent downturn. Affordable is a relative word when the paychecks keep lagging a step behind the rent. And that finally brings us all the way to number 1, the city that started this entire reversal in the first place. Number 1, Atlanta, Georgia. Come on, you knew. Atlanta is the Black Mecca, and it has worn that crown for more than half a century, ever since a magazine slapped the label on it back in the early 1970s. The metro is home to over 2 million black residents, a population that has doubled since 1990 and now runs about 40% larger than Chicago's, and Frey's research shows Atlanta led every single metro in America in black in-migration for 4 straight decades. Roughly a third of the entire metro is black. This is the beating headquarters of black economic and cultural power in the country. The Atlanta University Center is the largest consortium of historically black colleges on Earth, cramming Morehouse, Spelman, Clark Atlanta, and the Morehouse School of Medicine into one legendary stretch of neighborhood. Atlanta has elected black mayors continuously since 1974, an unbroken line running the city for half a century. And year after year, it posts the highest share of black-owned businesses of any metro in the entire United States. The wild fact is the film industry, because Tyler Perry Studios sprawls across 330 acres of a former Confederate Army base, making it one of the largest studios in the nation and the first major one owned by a black American. Read that again slowly and let the irony marinate. On housing, the typical Atlanta home runs around $429,000, a bit above the national median, but an absolute punchline compared to the $800,000 plus you would pay in New York or the near million in Los Angeles. That price gap right there is the entire migration story compressed into a single number. But Atlanta earns the honest treatment more than anywhere else on this list, because the Black Mecca carries a painful contradiction right at its core. The region regularly ranks among the worst in the country for income inequality. Black-owned small businesses inside the city earn just pennies on the dollar compared to their peers. And the black share of the city of Atlanta itself actually fell from 67% in 1980 down to 47% by 2020, as rising prices quietly pushed longtime families out toward the suburbs. The Mecca is very real, and the Mecca is also busy pricing out the very children it raised. That tension sits at the heart of this whole story. So there it is, the 10 southern cities pulling Black America home, one U-Haul at a time. Let us run back the wildest of the bunch real quick. Dallas-Fort Worth quietly beat Atlanta for the number 1 growth crown, adding more black residents than any metro in the country while nobody was looking. A Maryland county called Charles snuck right past Prince George's to become the highest income majority black county in America. Houston will sell you a house for the price of a California parking spot and toss in the largest medical center on the planet for free. And Atlanta remains the capital, gorgeous and contradictory, welcoming millions through the front door while quietly nudging the old neighborhoods out the back. The through line underneath all of it is dead simple. Cheaper homes, real jobs, historically black colleges, thriving black-owned business, and the deep gravity of family roots reverse the single largest migration in American history, truck by truck by truck. Remember that New York number from the top, the 140,000 people who left. They did not disappear. They are on this list buying houses on purpose. And every scrap of data says the ones behind them are not slowing down. If you somehow made it all the way to the end of this one, you are now legally required to hit like and subscribe. I do not make the rules, I just enforce them extremely aggressively. Drop the city you would actually move to down in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.